announcements.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it is with deep regret that we learnt of the demise of Mr. Mayendra Uchana, former Member of Parliament, on 1st of January last at the age of 70. Mayendra Uchana, as he was commonly known, was born on 29th December 1950 at Poudre-d'Or Hamlet. In 1973, he proceeded to India to pursue tertiary education at Pune University. During his university studies, he assumed responsibilities of President of the Mauritius Students Association and Secretary General of the Symbiosis Student Council. In 1976, after the completion of a Bachelor of Arts in English, he returned to Mauritius and started working as an English teacher at Paten College in Rosehill. He began his political career in the same year by joining the MMM. In 1976, he contested the general elections in constituency number 7, Piton, Rivière-du-Rempart, under the banner of the MMM, but was not elected. In 1979, he took a job as principal at Progressive College in Rivière-du-Rempart, a position he held until 1983. In 1982, he stood as a candidate for the general elections in constituency number 7, Piton Rivière-du-Rempart, under the banner of the MMM-PSM alliance, and was elected third member. In 1983, he left the MMM and became one of the founding members of the MSM as a result of the split within the MMM. He was appointed Minister of Energy and Communications in the same year. He was entrusted with the post of Treasurer of the MSM, which he held until 1995. In August 1983, he contested the general elections again in constituency number 7 under the banner of the MSM Labour Party alliance and was elected third member. He was reappointed Minister and held the portfolio of Energy and Internal Communications. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the general elections of 1987, Mr. Uchana was returned third member to serve constituency number 7 under the banner of the MSM Labour Party alliance. He was reappointed Minister of Energy In 1991, he ran for the general elections in constituency number 7 under the banner of the MSM-MMM alliance and was returned third member. He became Minister of Energy, Water Resources and Postal Services, a portfolio he held until October 1994. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Uchana was also known for his social activities and was engaged in charitable work at the Human Service Trust. He was associated with the setting up of the Ayurveda Hospital of the Trust in 1985. Mr. Speaker, sir, committed to the concerns of the people of Indian origin settled in different parts of the world, Mr. Uchana became a member of the Mauritian branch of GOPIO, the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, in 2001. In 2012, he became the chairperson of the Apravasi Ghat Trust Fund and in 2013, the chairperson of Gupyu International. Mr. Uchana was instrumental in the setting up of the International Indentured Girmitias Foundation, which was incorporated in 2016. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I request you to kindly direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Mr. Speaker, sir, in my name and that of the opposition, we associate ourselves with the tribute made by the Honourable Prime Minister to late Mr. Mayan Uchana, and I also request the clerk to convey our condolences, our sincere condolences, to the bereaved family.
Honourable members, I associate myself with the tribute paid to the memory of late Mr. Mayan Uchana, former Member of Parliament, by the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Leader of Opposition, and I direct the clerk to convey the deep condolences of the Assembly to the bereaved family.
Papers have been laid. Questions?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the PNQ is addressed to the Honourable Minister of Health. Whether in regard to the COVID-19 vaccination campaign, he will state, A, the different types of vaccines that will be administered to the population, B, when it is expected that 70% of the population will have received 2 doses of the vaccine, C, the percentage of senior citizens, persons suffering from diabetes and heart diseases who have been vaccinated as at to date, and D, whether the consent form will be amended.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I have to thank the Honourable Leader of Opposition for giving me the opportunity to enlighten the House and the population at large on our vaccination program. In July 2020, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade informed my ministry that there was a proposal from the global islands for vaccines and immunization, inviting Mauritius to submit a non-bidding expression of interest for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines being developed by several international pharmaceutical companies. After consultation with all relevant stakeholders, my ministry entered into an agreement with the Gavi Alliance. The agreement provides for the procurement of the vaccines to cover 20% of the population. In a bid to ensure that more than 20% of the population, that is at least 70%, will be covered, my ministry sought information on availability of vaccines from other manufacturers of candidate vaccines. The African Union is also facilitating the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines for AU members countries through the Africa Medical Supplies Platform. The latter has informed my ministry that the allotment for Mauritius would be 199,682 doses, of which 48,551 from Pfizer and 151,231 from Johnson & Johnson. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 16 December 2020, my ministry wrote to other manufacturers, namely AstraZeneca, Oxford, Pfizer, Moderna, Gamaleya Research Institute, seeking information in respect of the process and modalities for the procurement of each vaccine, the prices thereof, the supply chain, the temperature requirement, and the scheduled delivery of the vaccines. Pfizer requested my ministry to enter into a non-disclosure agreement, which my ministry did. Thereafter, a working session webinar was held with representative of Pfizer on 7 January 2021, and my ministry was also requested to make an official request. The ministry submitted a request for the procurement of 1 million doses of Pfizer vaccines and requested the manufacturer to inform about the terms and conditions, delivery schedule and pricing. However, no conclusive deal was reached with any of the manufacturers. On 16 December 2020, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade requested my ministry to inform as to whether we intended to procure Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines manufactured by the Serum Institute of India under the brand name Covishield. The Covishield vaccine has been validated by the WHO it is administered in 2 doses, with the second dose being administered after 8 to 12 weeks with more efficacy. Mr. Speaker, sir, according to the World Health Organization, the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines have an efficacy of 66.7% against symptomatic SARS-CoV-2 infection after administration of 2 doses. It was found that the vaccine efficacy increased significantly when the interval between dose 1 and the dose 2 was longer than 4 weeks. Efficacy dose of the first one has been shown to be as high as 76% through at least 12 weeks after vaccination. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 13th January 2021, after consultation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, my ministry wrote to the Director of Serum Institute of India, signifying our intention to procure 1 million doses of Covishield vaccine and requesting information in respect of the price per unit of the vaccines, the time frame within which the vaccine could be made available, and the term and conditions attached to such procurement and delivery. Following exchange of correspondence between my ministry, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the High Commission of India in Mauritius, my ministry submitted an emergency use of Covishield vaccine to the Serum Institute of India through diplomatic channel. On 26 January 2021, a safety data exchange agreement was signed between my ministry and the Serum Institute of India. The purpose of the safety data exchange agreement was to describe the procedures and to define the responsibilities between my ministry and the Serum Institute of India. The Indian authorities informed the government that they would make a donation of 100,000 doses of Covishield vaccines to Mauritius to enable us to kickstart our vaccination program. The consignment reached Mauritius on 22nd January 2021, and our program started on 26th January 2021 in Mauritius and on 6th February 2021 in Rodrigues. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 27th January 2021, a firm order was placed on the Serum Institute of India for the purchase of 300,000 doses of Covishield vaccines. That is 100,000 doses to be supplied in February 2021, 100,000 doses in Q1 and 100,000 doses in the Q2. A vaccine purchase agreement was thereafter signed between my ministry and Serum Institute of India on 15 February 2021. On 21st February 2021, the first consignment of 100,000 doses of Covishield vaccines reached Mauritius. The second consignment of 100,000 doses of Covishield vaccine is expected in mid-April 2021 and the last consignment by end of June 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry finalized a national deployment and vaccination plan for COVID-19 vaccines with the support and collaboration of WHO and other stakeholders. The plan, which was approved by the government in January 2021, highlights the target population, including Rodrigues and Agalega, and is as follows. Priority 1 covers 15,000 frontline healthcare workers, 5,000 frontline police and prison officers, and 25,000 other frontliners. Priority 2 covers 9,000 healthcare workers from public and private sectors, 10,000 personnel from the Mauritius Police Force, and 52,000 other essential workers. Priority 3 covers persons above the age of 60 years, and Priority 4 covers adults with at least 2 comorbidities, residents of dedicated homes, teaching and non-teaching staff of educational institutions, firefighters, staff of supermarkets, bank, front office personnel, and scavenging personnel. Mr. Speaker, sir, the vaccination program started with the frontliners, that is, the medical staff, port and airport staff, and staff of the tourism sector. It continued with the vaccination of the senior citizens and patients with 2 comorbidities. However, with the lockdown, the vaccination program was targeted for persons who had been granted for work access permit. As from 17th March 2021, the EDB MRU platform has been created to register applications for vaccination from business operators, including SMEs, general retailers, grocery stores, planters, vegetable growers, animal breeders, fishermen, and all operators dealing with the general public. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to the administration of the vaccines, initially, the vaccination was being carried out in the 5 regional hospitals with a view to ensuring that any person showing signs of adverse reaction could be given immediate medical attention. Subsequently, in a bid to scale up the vaccination program, vaccination was carried out in other settings, having medical posts or medical facilities such as the port, airport, police posts, hotels, and other tourist resorts. Given the high response shown from the public to be vaccinated, and in order to carry out the vaccination in a more conducive setup, vaccination is now being carried out in large spaces such as stadium, village halls, sport complexes, gymnasium, and conference centers. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also approached the Russian authorities with a view to securing supply of the Sputnik vaccine. My ministry was subsequently advised to send our request to the Russian Direct Investment Fund, a Russian government agency responsible for the commercialization of the vaccine. My ministry therefore approached the Russian Direct Investment Fund through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on 16 December, and we had been informed that the Russian Direct Investment Fund is agreeable to provide 250,000 doses of the Sputnik vaccine. For this purpose, a draft agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, and a draft supply agreement have been signed with the Russian Direct Investment Fund. On 19 March 2021, the Russian Direct Investment Fund has informed that a first shipment of vaccine would be made possible as soon as a registration with the Federation is complete, and subsequently other shipments would follow at regular intervals. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 5th March 2021, the High Commission of India informed my ministry that vaccines against COVID-19 manufactured by Bharat Biotech India Limited and commercialized under the brand name Covaxin was available for procurement by Mauritius and submitted relevant documentation regarding sales. The information was submitted to the National COVID-19 Vaccination Committee, which gave its approval for the use of Covaxin. My ministry submitted an emergency use authorization to the company and a purchase order of 1 million doses. The company informed my ministry that 230,150 doses of the vaccines were available immediately at the rate of USD 15 per dose, and for a total amount of USD 3,452,250. Payment was effected through Bank of Mauritius. On 18th March 2021, my ministry was informed that due to export restrictions on vaccines, the government of India has authorized the sale of only 200,000 doses. The consignment reached Mauritius on Friday 19th March 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, the vaccine commercialized under the brand name Covaxin has been approved by the Drugs Controller General of India for emergency use. In Mauritius, the Trade and Therapeutic Committee and the Pharmacy Board have also approved the emergency use of the vaccine. Covaxin has recently completed its 3rd phase of clinical trial, and as per data available, its efficacy is 81%. The vaccine has already been administered to millions of people in India and in some other countries. As of date, no adverse event following immunization has been registered in any country. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 12 March 2021, my ministry also was informed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the government of the People's Republic of China has agreed to make a donation of 100,000 doses of vaccines to Mauritius. The National COVID-19 Vaccination Committee has given its approval to accept the brand Sinopharm. In this context, my ministry will have to sign a letter of commitment for the receipt of the donation and submit the authorization of emergency use and liability execution. My ministry is seeking all necessary clearances before signing the undertaking. In a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, sir, we can safely say that Mauritius will be provided with vaccines of different brands and at different time intervals, either as donations or procured on a commercial basis as follows. COVAX facility, 507,200 doses with delivery to be confirmed. Serum Institute of India, 100,000 doses, donation already received. Serum Institute of India, 100,000 doses, procured, already received. Serum Institute of India, 200,000 doses, procured on order. Covaxin, 200,000 doses, already received. Sputnik, 250,000 doses on order. African Union, 48,551 doses on order, Pfizer, and 151,231 on order from Johnson & Johnson. China, Sinopharm, 100,000 doses, donation awaiting delivery. Total, excluding the Johnson & Johnson, it's 1,455,651 doses to cater for the vaccination of 727,825 persons. J&J vaccines, 151,231 single-dose vaccine. With these numbers of vaccine, a total of 879,056 persons can be vaccinated, representing to 82% of the adult population of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, the House would be glad to know that even today, while going through the private notice question, we have been informed by the Mauritius Embassy in Russia that the Russian Direct Investment Fund has agreed to supply 1,250,000 doses of the Sputnik vaccine in 2 equal consignments. This shows our commitment to have recourse to all necessary diplomatic channels and our long-standing amicable bilateral relationship in order to have sufficient doses of vaccines to protect our population. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the question, my ministry has worked out 2 different scenarios. Scenario 1, with the vaccination of 10,500 persons per day, it is expected to immunize 62% by August 2021. For scenario 2, with the vaccination of 12,500 persons per day, it is expected to immunize 74% of the population by August 2021. I wish to inform the House that the vaccination team of my ministry and the private clinics have the capacity to administer the vaccines up to 12,500 to 13,000 persons per day. However, the program will depend on the timely delivery of the vaccine from the various suppliers. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part C of the question, I wish to reassure the House, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, that our senior citizens remain a priority for this government. Preventing them from being infected with the virus is a constant objective of my ministry. The resurgence of the virus and its consequences has compelled us to take a decision regarding pursuing the vaccination of the elderly. On the sanitary side, it seems very risky to continue vaccinating the elderly in the centers, even by maintaining all hygienic measures without exposing our elderly and getting the risk of them being infected. Our government chose to stop the vaccination in order to better protect them. I wish to inform the Leader of the Opposition that confinement and sanitary measures are the best preventive measures against COVID-19. Once the resurgence of the virus is controlled, the vaccination of the senior citizens and patients with comorbidities will resume without delay. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that 18,034 out of 22,000 228,284 senior citizens have already been vaccinated, and this represents 8% of senior citizens. With respect to persons suffering from diabetes and heart diseases, I'm informed that around 100% have been vaccinated. These figures do not include senior citizens and patients with comorbidities who have been vaccinated in the private clinics. These figures of the latter have yet to be compiled and submitted to my ministry. The House will recall that with respect to Part A of the question, I stated that with the lockdown, the vaccination program for senior citizens and patients with comorbidities was put on hold, and the program was targeted with the work access permit. The House will also note that holders of WAP include senior citizens. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part D of the question, I have to inform the House that COVAX facility conveyed to my ministry 3 conditions for Mauritius to be enlisted for the supply of vaccines under the facility. The first one is product labeling. The model packaging for label for vials for COVID-19 vaccine that will be supplied through COVAX facility was submitted for the ministry to inform whether the model label is in line with the statutory requirements. The Pharmacy section informed that there would be no need to amend the Pharmacy Act as Mauritius complies with the labeling requirements. Moreover, there is no import restrictions on vaccines. Second, the second condition is product liability risk. Manufacturers have expressed reluctance to deliver COVID-19 vaccines to countries participating in COVAX facility unless product liability risks are adequately addressed through an agreement with the manufacturers. However, Mauritius, being a high-income country, does not fall under the list of countries which have to sign such an agreement. The third condition is compensation fund. The World Health Organization and Gavi also submitted a draft briefing note. Indemnification for COVAX that requires high-income and middle-income countries which are considered to have the financial means to provide adequate compensation to individuals who sustain unexpected severe adverse events to adequately indemnify manufacturers and other stakeholders. Hence, it would be advisable to establish a compensation mechanism to compensate individuals suffering from adverse events associated with COVID-19 vaccines distributed under COVAX, and to pay any legal awards in that regard against the indemnified entities. I wish to inform the House that the three of the manufacturers of the vaccine who have supplied or will supply vaccine to Mauritius, namely the Russian Direct Investment Fund, the Chinese authorities, or the Serum Institute of India, have also made it a condition precedent prior to the supply of any vaccines to have the following clauses. First, no claim clause. Second, a hold harmless clause. And third, a no liability clause. My ministry normally has recourse to a consent form which safeguards the ministry from such effects of vaccines like fever and mild rash. However, for the COVID-19 vaccine, a no-fault compensation should be established for severe adverse events or rare disorders arising out of use of vaccines, death, or disability. The fund should clearly indicate that affected people would either have recourse to the compensation scheme or to a lawsuit, and not both. The ceiling of the fund has to be capped by my ministry. After discussions with the Attorney General's office and other stakeholders, it was agreed that regarding the indemnity for the manufacturers, a consent form would be elaborated. Any compensation that the state of Mauritius may be found liable to pay to any person would be made under the consolidated fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is not proposed to bring any amendment to the consent form. The consent form has been designed according to what obtains in the US, including the state of Florida. I will table a copy of the Florida state consent form. The vaccination form and the vaccine are voluntary and not mandatory. Manufacturers of the vaccine have had to develop vaccines in an expedited timeline, that is 1 year out from the threat of the pandemic instead of the usual 5 years. The UK government has passed regulations reducing legal protection from anyone injured by COVID-19 vaccine approved for emergency use. One of the reasons for such a decision was to encourage companies to aggressively invest and back vaccine development. The legal immunity covers companies supplying the vaccine, all health workers injecting the vaccine, and the NHS Trust and Foundation that employ the health workers. Consumer protection rights still apply for people injured by COVID-19 vaccine, as the UK government was not allowed to take away those. COVID-19 vaccines have been added to the existing damages fund, which awards £120,000 to anyone who suffers 60% of disability as a result of getting a COVID vaccine. Further, in the European Union, Article 5 of Directive 2001/83 requires that member states lay down provisions so that marketing authorization, manufacturers and health professionals are not subject to civil or administrative liability for any consequences resulting from the use of an unauthorized medicinal product, or from the use of a product, or from the use of an unauthorized medicinal product, or from the use of a product otherwise done in accordance with its authorization when such use is by the licensing authority in response to the spread of pathogens. In France, Code civil provides as follows. Le producteur est responsable de plein droit à moins qu'il ne prouve ou que le défaut est dû à la conformité du produit avec des règles impératives d'ordre législatif ou réglementaire. Le producteur de la partie composante n'est pas non plus responsable s'il établit que le défaut est imputable à la conception du produit dans lequel cette partie a été incorporée ou aux instructions données par le producteur de ce produit. Mr. Speaker, sir, in view of the foregoing, the reply to part D of the question is no. The consent form will not be amended. I seize this opportunity to thank the Honourable Leader of Opposition and members of the Opposition who have graciously and voluntarily signed the consent form in order to be vaccinated on a priority basis. I also thank the members of the legal profession who, through the Bar Council, got vaccinated last week at Port Louis. All these barristers duly signed the consent form. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it's now 12:06. The Minister has spoken at length on probably the most important issue that our country faces in the last 50 years. I hope that you will give the opposition adequate time to respond and take him to task, Mr. Speaker. Since August of last year, for the last 8 months at least, the Minister and his trusted advisor, Dr. Go, have warned repeatedly the population and us here in the House that the use of vaccines, in his own words, not approved and validated by the WHO, is dangerous, that it would be foolish to do so. PQB612 and PQB783. This is what the Minister said, Mr. Speaker. He said it would be catastrophic to purchase vaccines not validated. Maybe he is himself a catastrophe, I don't know. But he said it would be catastrophic to purchase vaccines not validated, Mr. Speaker. He is now the minister. Mr. Speaker, this minister is now proposing, is currently administering unvalidated, unapproved vaccines by the WHO. And in his own words, Mr. Speaker, these vaccines could have catastrophic effect on Mauritians. I'm asking him now whether he's not taking our citizens for fools.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I indeed stated that we would use WHO-approved vaccines back in December last year. The context is completely different. I also stated that we will not, I have to remind you, that we will not at any cost take our citizens for cobaye. Mr. Speaker, sir, today, once more in this House, I wish to reiterate the firm commitment we took and confirm that this government and my ministry will always stand by this principle. The scheme being deployed by the Leader of Opposition is clear. As I stated in my former interventions, some are indeed praying for us to fail in our management of COVID-19 situation. Their aim is merely to cause doubt in the mind of the population and to create confusion around the ongoing vaccination campaign. This is their aim. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to draw the attention of the House that as at date, the WHO-approved vaccines have not been given the green light for emergency use. Back in December, we were COVID-19 safe. As time went by, the situation evolved, both locally and internationally. We had the duty to consider the vaccination of our population. We had the duty to consider the vaccination of our population in order to continue to cater for their health and well-being. We also had to allow our economic activities to resume to their full capacity. And we also anticipated the global rush that we might have to face. That's true, in the procurement of safe and efficient vaccines. Again, back then in December 2020.
If you are going, on a point of order, if I may, if you are going to allow the minister to go on blah, 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 like this, already he has taken 20 minutes or more to respond in his formal reply. I think you have to be fair to us, Mr. Speaker. These answers have to be succinct, brief, to allow the opposition to ask the questions. Otherwise, we'll be done in 2 minutes after 2 questions.
Honourable Member, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, rest assured I'll give you some more minutes, number one. Number two, you've been a former Prime Minister, you know that I can't control answers of the ministers. Oh. Best wishes, best wishes. Shadow Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, if the Leader of Opposition have to bear with me, even if he has catastrophic years, I have to continue. Back then in December 2020, we did not have enough guarantee. It's very important to listen to this part, because back then in December 2020, we didn't have enough guarantee on the safety.
Order.
We didn't have guarantee on the safety of the available vaccines. And as soon as we are satisfied with safety and efficiency concern, we move for the procurement of vaccine. We have to understand this, that in December 2020, no one was aware which one of the candidate vaccines will be given approval. We were not aware. That's why we stated that we have to get vaccine that is approved. Let me finish. The vaccines being rolled out in Mauritius, they are safe and efficient. They have been validated by international bodies of repute. also by the Pharmacy Board, also by the Trade and Therapeutics Committee, and the Vaccination Committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, we acted fast, but not in a haste. Today, Mauritius is among the 20 countries in Africa having started the vaccination for their respective population. Now, if the leader of opposition is alleging that we have not been true to what we stated in December, he is again completely wrong. The COVID-19 pandemic is ever evolving, and we cannot stay idle at some suggesting. We have been constantly adapting our strategy to the changing situation. It's very important to understand why we have changed this situation. And I firmly believe...
Order, please. Order. Order.
I understand their frustrations, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order, please. Order. Order.
They don't have anything to say about the government actions and the government program. That's why I'll quote John Patterson, American industrialist. If dead men can't change their minds, fools simply won't.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Rezautim, be careful.
For the last 8 months. I'm trying, Mr. Speaker, I'm trying my best to keep calm in the face of such a catastrophe, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since the last 8 months, we have been begging the minister, begging him to pre-order vaccines, reserve vaccines like the UK, the US, the European Union, Israel, you name it. We have been begging him to pre-order vaccines, reserve vaccines, so that he can take delivery once the vaccines are approved by WHO. He has stubbornly and negligently refused to do so, putting the population of this country at risk, both as to health and economically, Mr. Speaker, sir. And he dares to say that we have not done our work. We want this country, Mr. Speaker, to succeed. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I was not going to ask him to resign because we have a pandemic. But really he ought to. But I'm going to ask him, Mr. Speaker, to give an unreserved apology to the nation, to this nation, for having been negligent, and putting our lives at risk and our economy at risk and the well-being of this population at risk. He has been negligent, Mr. Speaker. He must apologize.
So you have no question.
Will he apologize?
Mr. Speaker,
Do we have an answer?
should I request...
Statement? No answer?
No answer.
Move on to your next question.
Mr. Speaker, okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I'm going now to ask about... I'll come back to many other important points with your permission, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to come now to this famous consent form, which has created so much anxiety in Mauritius. And I'm going to talk...
Why you sign?
I signed, Mr. Speaker. Don't laugh like a fool. I signed because I'm patriotic and I wanted to give the good impression. And I will sign it again. But I will say this, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General misled the population when he was on TV. When he said...
Bear with me. Put your question. Don't make a statement.
Speaking for 10, 20 minutes...
There is one leader of the opposition I recognize in this House, Honorable Xavier Duval.
For the moment, sir, thank you. For the moment. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Attorney General misled the population in a press conference when he stated... Let me finish the question. Okay. Let me finish it. It's not long.
Finish the question.
He misled the population when he stated, and I have the consent forms here, and it's getting me very upset, because he stated, consent form pour vaccin, il pareil comme un consent form signé dans l'hôpital. I am going to table, Mr. Speaker.
So
The
where's the
consent
question?
form. Sorry?
Question time. Where's your question? Use the
Mr.
time
Speaker.
to put question.
Mr. Speaker, I am doing my work. If you're not happy, you can expel me, but I will do my work as I see fit. This consent form, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing here. It is consenting to information that is being given as to the issues that may arise. Nowhere in these consent forms, and this is where he has misled the population in the presence of the Honourable Minister of Health. Nowhere in these consent forms
There's no question.
are there
Move on to the
any
next question. Listen,
waivers.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, try to understand my position.
Try
I'm
to-
here to regulate Parliament.
Mr.
If you don't
Speaker-
have any question, I'm just sorry for you.
Wait, Mr.
Come
Speaker,
with your question. Use the question time to put questions, not to make statements, Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your advice, but I'm unable to ask a question, a two-word question. I have to ask in the context. The context is this, Mr. Speaker. This is the question. Is the Honourable Minister aware that his colleague misled the population? Is he aware of that? Is he aware that the consent forms nowhere along in Mauritius do these consent forms have any waiver of liability? This is a question.
This is a long statement.
What can I do? I have to explain, Mr.
Come
Speaker.
with your question.
I will be brief. Mr. Speaker, I have taken a Xanax before coming. I will be very brief with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to get excited. Now, this consent form does not have any waiver. These consent forms for admission, for blood transfusion, etc. Therefore, the Honourable Attorney General misled the whole population in the presence of the Minister of Health.
Honourable
Will he?
Member, you're making insinuations and accusations. You know fully well. You're a full-fledged politician, leader of the opposition. You know that you have no question. Why don't you use this precious time to put questions?
It is extremely important. Will he now respond?
Mr.
Please
Speaker,
respond now to the
allow
question
me to...
as he raised the matter with the Honourable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, there is no question on my...
Point of
Please,
order.
I'm willing to answer to question.
Point of order, please. Please go ahead.
No honourable member can use the word mislead against any other member of this House. If the honourable member has misled if any member has misled the House,
Order.
the point is that the honourable member should come with a substantive motion reproaching the member for having misled the House. That's my first point.
Order.
My second point is the honourable leader of the opposition cannot ask a question to the Minister of Health, asking him whether another minister has spoken the truth or not. This question should be addressed to the minister in question. A minister cannot answer for what another minister is alleged to have committed. This is out of order.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, put proper questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, on the 4th of February, a few weeks ago, the Honourable Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker, when the Titanic was sinking, people were playing the violin. Mr. Speaker,
Put your question.
the Minister on the 4th of February, Mr. Speaker, I am being interrupted. Can you do something about it?
Put the question. You have many...
The Minister and his trusted advisor said on TV, in the papers, qu'il n'y a aucune urgence à se faire vacciner. Does he know, even though at that time there was no pandemic, is he aware of the horrible economic consequences of having our borders closed? And isn't it shameful of him that he was so misguided to say there was aucune urgence à se vacciner? And now the Deputy Prime Minister, the Attorney General, a few weeks later, are saying seule solution, vaccination. Mr. Speaker,
Let the minister
will the
answer.
Honourable
Let the
Minister
answer.
apologize again to the nation for being incompetent?
Once more, don't give lessons. First of all, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, withdraw the word shameful that you used and put a proper question.
I withdraw shameful in whatever context it was if it upsets you. No problem. I withdraw.
Your question is over. Any answer?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, so let me start by first saying that the Honourable Leader of Opposition, I know this is your first day, you have taken Xanax, you're a little bit, a lot of abruti in you, I understand. You don't know how to formulate questions, I think, Honourable, I understand perfectly.
Honourable Minister.
Leader, yes, sir, yes, okay. So I'll first start by what the Leader of Opposition has said, the order. Did he know that once the vaccination development for the vaccines started, there were 200 candidates for the vaccines, the research. He would come to make a political point that we should have pre-order. Does he know what pre-order means? As an accountant, he should not know only figures. He should know also the administrative procedures involved. I said it in my intervention. What are the different steps involved in procuring vaccines? It's not just like going in a supermarché and just do it's an over-the-counter that you buy it. There are a lot of regulation. He should understand. He should make the population understand that we are in a pandemic stage. Vaccines take years to develop. And these vaccines have been given approval due to the emergency use. He should know that. And we have to be, at the same time, bring safe vaccine to Mauritius, but at the same time, we have to act fast. Second, he also said that his question was about on 4th of February. I don't know from where he's quoting that, from which newspaper that he's reading. In fact, if we started our campaign on 26th January because we know that it is imported, taking any quote from any newspapers doesn't mean that I have said so. You are doing that blah blah. You are taking blah blah of any newspapers. The government has started preparing for the vaccination program since early December. In my intervention, I give it all the details. Can't he listen properly? All the details I've given to him about the procurement of vaccines. And at the same time, he is saying that I said in some press that the vaccines is not urgent. So why we have started vaccination as from 26 January, especially for the frontliners? Try to be frank and don't try to mislead the population, because I know this is the only opportunity that you have, or else otherwise anybody won't listen to you.
I am in the House and the Minister is accusing me of misleading my colleagues here. Withdraw it, please. Withdraw it now. Now.
Order here.
Withdraw it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to know what should I withdraw. I won't withdraw till I don't know perfectly. If ever you have to go back.
Honourable Minister, withdraw the word mislead.
I withdraw the word mislead.
And
Next
your
question.
mouth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Get prepared.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister has given us a timeline. And it shows clearly that he has been dragging his feet for months and only now is panicking. I'm going to ask him something. Mr. Speaker, PQ bis 622. This is what he said. He said something at contrary at the same time. But this is what he said. It is, when talking about vaccination, Mr. Speaker, it is mostly for them, that is the old age pensioners and the persons at risk and the frontliners that were looking forward to this vaccine. This is talking, Mr. Speaker, about people with comorbidity, old age, etc. What we have found, Mr. Speaker, is what he's doing now, which is shameful also. You don't like the word shameful?
Not only you don't have a question, you're using words which are in Parliament. Withdraw the word yourself.
Absolutely. It is regrettable. Is that okay for you? It is regrettable, Mr. Speaker, that a small percentage of all people, 8% I think he said, these old people are maybe 50 times more at risk of getting severe COVID or death than anybody else. And he's giving priority, Mr. Speaker, to people who have, not frontliners, listen, to people who have work access permits. 200,000 people in Mauritius have work access permits. And he thinks that these 200,000 people who are not really at risk because they are young, most of them, should have priority against 210,000.
Order first. Question time should not be a pretext for debate. Don't debate, honorable member. You put your question.
But still, there you go. It is, Mr. Speaker, very regrettable that he is complètement délaissé. The old people, 8% only have been vaccinated in favor of clients of Business Mauritius, who, as the Deputy Prime Minister said, are sending people, the busloads of people, to be vaccinated. I listened to you on the TV.
Question?
To be vaccinated. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, will he stop this nonsense and revert to vaccinating persons who are...
The word nonsense is not proper. Withdraw the word nonsense.
Nonsense. Is rubbish acceptable, sir? Rubbish? Will he withdraw this rubbish? Okay? And therefore revert to vaccinating all people, people with diabetes, people with heart disease.
Question, Honorable Leader of the Opposition. Be respectful to the chair. You should ask question. This is your prerogative. This is question time. There is no time for statement. And you ask me to give you some more time. How am I going to do that?
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, it is a question. That was a question. Maybe you missed it, but it is a question. Will he revert? That was my last sentence, Mr. Speaker.
Let me hear the question.
You heard it, but I'll tell it again.
No,
Will he revert to vaccinating people who are at risk? The old, the people with diabetes, these people with heart disease are 50 times or more liable to get severe COVID and death. And he's giving priority to clients of Business Mauritius, who, as the Deputy Prime Minister said, are sending...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't make any comparison. State your question directly. I allow you to lay the foundation of your question, but you're making an abuse of the time of the House.
Missed the declaration of the Deputy Prime Minister. He said that Business Mauritius, as from tomorrow, will be sending people by busload for vaccination.
The Minister, Honorable...
He's not complaining.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the Minister of Health is not responsible for any article or any statement by under... The thing is that you have to have a proper question. Why can't you have a proper question? I'm sure there are many interesting questions there.
My question is, Mr. Speaker, will he now revert? Is that not clear? Will he now revert to giving priority to all people, people with diabetes, etc., comorbidity, who have, this is the third time I give the question, 50 times more chance of severe COVID than clients of Business Mauritius?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I've explained it properly how the vaccination campaign has started, vaccination for elderly, and when, as soon as the confinement was en vigueur, we started to do the vaccination differently. Mr. Honorable Leader of Opposition should understand that old age, they are more vulnerable to the risk of contracting the disease. They have been always, the Minister of Health always advised them they have to stay at home, stay safe at home. In this context, where we have local transmission, where there is a surge of the disease, we should allow those people to stay at home. They should not be allowed to go out of the home because it's very risky. The Leader of Opposition has to understand this. He should not mingle. He should not mingle what has been said. There is a vaccination program. And in fact, the government has acted promptly. During confinement period, we have been doing vaccination for all people that will be going out, will be in contact with the population, will work with the public. This is the strategy. And once this confinement will be over, we will again resume our vaccination program as it has been the priority groups. He should not make allegations on old age about their disease. We know that they are priorities. We know they are very sensitive. But now allowing elderlies to go out of their homes and to do vaccination, this is not recommended. Second, Mr. Speaker, sir, the ministry has already given priorities to all those attending dialysis center to do the vaccination for the dialysis patient because they are attending our institution. They are moving out of their homes. Similarly, for those cancerous patients, we are doing vaccinations for those who are attending the hospitals. We are doing that because we know they are sensitive groups. And it's not what the leader of opposition is saying. I understand, again, as a psychiatrist, I understand the effect of Xanax. Mr. Speaker, sir, Xanax, if you take it too much, it's not good for your health. And if you take it too little also, it's not good. Thank you, Mr.
Only crazy people will go and say Dr. like this. I tell you, you have to be crazy to go and see him. Let me tell you one thing, Mr. Speaker. He has himself said that only 100 diabetes patients have been given vaccines. 100. Whereas there are something like 260,000 people suffering from diabetes in Mauritius. Are these people, all of them, supposed to stay at home and die of hunger because he has not given them priority?
I had a question. Answer, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I again said it. We are living in a confinement period. There is no transport facilities. These people have to stay at their home. The Ministry of Health had advised them, if only in emergency, in urgent context, to go to the hospital. They are attending local health centers to get their medicine, to get their, to get their treatment. And these people, we have to protect them in their house and not telling them to come and do the vaccination. He should also note that the vaccination, if you do it today, the effect will be after weeks. There is no emergency to do it in a time of confinement, in a time when the virus is circulating in the population. We have to be careful for that. We have to be protective to the elderly and not as what he is saying.
Honourable Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has made a confession d'etat, as a result of which, because of policy failure and failure to preempt, there's a shortage of vaccine. Can we have it from him that he will give us a forecast as to how we will reach 74% of herd immunity by August? And will he table the done?
Mr. Speaker, sir, in my intervention, I mentioned it, that how the government, how the ministry is proceeding with the vaccination. No countries in the world, even those who are producing the vaccine, can give a timeline when they can vaccinate their population.
Quiet. You ask your question, listen. No, don't discuss with the chair. On this side, be quiet.
Mr. Speaker, sir, they are comparing Mauritius with Seychelles with a population of 85,000, and where they have been given Sinopharm vaccination. I will see what would be their reaction when the Sinopharm vaccination will come to Mauritius. I will see. Now they are saying that Seychelles have been vaccinated. Let's wait for their reaction when the vaccination will come to Mauritius. Now, at the same time, we have how the government has been preparing for the vaccine. It's not that the vaccination is available tomorrow, but there is a preparation. There is a commitment of the government how to procure the vaccination, and all that I've already given how the vaccination will be procured. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, sir, the time frame that we don't know. We can't preempt now to say when will be the delivery time.
Honourable Team.
Sir,
In answer to PQB 992 last year, the Honourable Minister of Health stated, and I quote, that countries have been asked to establish a compensation mechanism to compensate individuals who might suffer from serious adverse effects associated with the vaccine. Being given that there was a commitment taken with COVAX to set up this compensation fund, why is the Honourable Minister telling us today that no such fund will be set up and instead no one will be compensated and everyone has to sign a waiver exculpating government and everyone else from liability?
Mr. Speaker, sir, again, I think that the member, the honourable member, he has not listened to me properly. I've said that after consultation with SLO, the government is that we have the consolidated fund to, if ever somebody is suffering from any adverse effect, that consolidated fund is a compensation fund that we can use to do for any compensation. Now, at the same time, the compensation fund which is required has to get a cap. And the Ministry of Health and the SLO, we can't value a person's life. It's better that we have it from the consolidated fund.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, last supplementary.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'll stay on this subject. Can the Minister perhaps tell us what are the parameters for compensation? Now, Singapore has just published the parameters for compensation, up to 7 million rupees for people with grave disabilities. Even given all the many months that he's had to think about this in his mind. Tell us now, please, what are the parameters for compensation from the consolidated fund?
That's what I said. In the compensation fund, we have to get the parameters. But in the consolidated fund, there is no year of such parameters.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition, show respect.
He is not crazy.
Show respect to the House.
I'm sorry.
Time over by 30 minutes. Prime Minister, question time. Honourable members, the table has been advised that PQ B2 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Labour, Human Resources Development and Training, Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection. PQ B6 and PQ B7 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Land Transport and Light Rail, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade. PQ B37 will be replied by the Honourable Prime Minister, time permitting. Honourable Nagalingam.
B1, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that as from the confirmation of the first positive case of COVID-19 in Mauritius in March 2020, my government took all precautionary measures possible to contain the spread of the virus among the people. One of the measures is the closing of our borders, except for cargo flights and cargo ships. I also considered, on a case-to-case basis, requests for flights destined inter alia for medical evacuation, transportation of medical supplies and repatriation under strict sanitary protocols as laid down by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I am informed by the Department of Civil Aviation that flights commonly referred to as private jets, other than those carrying persons for official or military purposes, are categorized as private flights. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am also informed that over the past 6 months, that is, from September 2020 to February 2021, there have been 6 private flights processed by GAM Terminal, presently known as the U Lounge Mauritius Limited. As regards parts A, B, and C of the question, I am tabling the information requested. As regards part D, I am further informed by the Ministry of Health and Wellness that all established quarantine protocols were observed. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to reiterate that quarantine protocols are mandatory and form an integral part of the stringent sanitary measures taken by government to minimize the risk of COVID-19 virus proliferation in Mauritius. As such, incoming passengers are required to strictly abide by all the sanitary protocols, including quarantine.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. And the Honourable Prime Minister confirmed to the House if he is aware of a private jet which landed in Mauritius whereby the cabin crews is stay overnight, but mean one day, in a hotel in the east. If yes, were all sanitary protocol observed?
Well, I have the list. I do not see anyone who has stayed in a hotel in the... Maybe you should, if you have more specific information about which flight you are talking. Mr. Speaker, sir, from the information that I have here, I do not see, unless Astroya Hotel, I don't know where it is, maybe if that is the one that you are referring to.
Next question, if you don't have the information.
Yes. Can I ask the Honourable Prime Minister if you can inform the House whether one LG did travel to and from Mauritius for the filming of Prisoners of Paradise and other purposes by private jet, and if so, when and where did he do his quarantine period?
No, from the information that I have been provided here, the first flight, I have the, anyway, I'll reply later on. The first flight is from the UK, and carried 2 passengers who came for, they are volunteer philanthropists, and they came to take certain reptiles to be brought to the UK. The second flight that I have with 3 passengers are salvage experts from Nippon Salvage of Japan, and they came in connection with the Wakashu. And the third, there are 2 passengers. I believe that they are Mauritians, and they came back to Mauritius. But no such flight that has been processed by GAM in relation to what the Honourable Member has referred to. First, for the first question, I have been provided with information. It is it is in fact the first flight from the United Kingdom where the crew stayed overnight. I believe in a hotel in the east, as you mentioned, probably. But it is the crew, I am told.
Prime Minister, he is given the number of private jet flights that have come in a given period of time through the GAM terminal. I'm asking him, have there been other private jet flights that have come into Mauritius, apart from those that have gone through GAM and which he has mentioned? Have there been other private jet flights that have come in through facilities different from GAM terminal?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the question is specific, and maybe I read to refresh the memory of the honourable member, whether in regard to GAM terminal at SSR airport. So I have information in relation to that question. Now the honourable member is asking me whether there are other jets that have come, that have been serviced at the main terminal. Well, you come with a specific question, I will be very happy to answer. But put the question properly. And put relevant question. Put relevant question.
Yes.
So many years of experience that we have in this house.
No cross-conversation, please.
But he's
Honourable
talking to me.
Nagalingam.
Yes, can I ask the Honourable Prime Minister to confirm whether the quarantine procedures was applicable to film producers and celebrities, including one MP, also known as MT, and one CM who visited Mauritius by private jet and roamed around the country for filming purposes?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I just mentioned that the flights which conveyed passengers to Mauritius, let me repeat again. Maybe they haven't listened properly. The first one is good that I provide some details. 13th of September, 2020, date of arrival, carrying 2 passengers for evacuation of reptiles from Île aux Aigrettes. The second flight, 22nd of September 2020, conveyed 2 passengers, 3 passengers. They are experts with regard to the salvage of Wakashu. And the third arrived on the 26th of September 2020, conveying 2, I believe they are Mauritian nationalities, who stayed in Mauritius. And therefore, there's no, haven't mentioned any one celebrity, actor, anyone coming for filming. This is, first of all, there has been no celebrity or any crew coming for filming in the answer that I've given. And secondly, there are in any case no exceptions with regard to our sanitary protocols for any incoming passengers. No exceptions, except for in cases, maybe the question will be replied later on, for state visits for diplomats who have visited us.
Whether he is aware that the GAM terminal was closed from October onwards, and all private jets have had to use the main terminal because GAM was closed by the government for sanitary purposes.
But the question relates to for the past
No,
6 months.
but therefore...
You put a question that GAM has been so. You know it has been closed, and then yet you don't put the question.
Last supplementary, Honourable Nagalingam, if you have one. Next question, Honourable David.
Be free.
Mr. Speaker, sir, following the detection of new local cases in March 2021, the temporary restrictions of movement order was made under Section 3 of the Quarantine Act 2020 to prevent the spread of COVID-19. A closing down order was issued on 10th March 2021, ordering that commercial premises or offices to remain closed for such period and under such terms and conditions as specified, except for certain commercial premises and offices as specified at paragraph 4 of the same order. However, Section 3(2) of the Quarantine Act 2020 empowers the Commissioner of Police to issue a permit to a person to be outdoor for such purpose and on such terms and conditions as he may specify therein. Mr. Speaker, sir, the website besafemaurice.mu was thus reactivated on 10th March 2021, where applications for work access permit could be submitted online. The Mauritius Police Force issued 2 communiques dated 10th and 11th of March 2021, respectively, to inform the public of the procedures for the application for WAP. I am informed by the Commissioner of Police that since 10th of March 2021 to Monday 22nd of March 2021, 7,435 applications have been approved, where permits were issued to 187,619 persons. As regards details of companies, entities which have been granted WAPs and the sectors of activity, the information is being compiled.
Honourable Prime Minister, in relation to the issue of WAPs, the work access permits to members of Parliament, is the Prime Minister aware that work access permits have been issued since about a week to all municipal councillors, and therefore it seems discriminatory, it doesn't apply to me but to my colleagues, all here, that these MPs do not have work access permits to visit their constituents, whereas municipal councillors are allowed to do so.
Mr. Speaker, sir, in fact there have been requests that were made by the chief executives of local authorities to the Ministry of Local Government for the issue of work access permits for their respective councils. Now, I am informed that the chief executive informed that the WAPs were needed to ensure business continuity in local authorities, especially for refuse collection and for cemetery services. Now, wait, don't get excited. And just as in the case of last year, what we did, the request for WAPs was also received for mayors, deputy mayors, municipal councillors, as well as chairpersons and deputy chairpersons of district councils and district councillors, as they form part of the Permits and Building Monitoring Committee and the Executive Committee of the respective councils. Applications for building and land use permits are received on the National Electronic Licensing System platform of Corporate and Business Registration Department, whereby these have to be determined within the prescribed time frame of 14 working days. It is to be pointed out that the Local Government Act provides that BLUP's application, which are not determined by the PBMC within the time frame, are deemed approved by silent agreement. That is the reason why those councillors have been given a WAP, and the WAP is also for them to move from their place of residence to attend the meetings for the purpose, of course, of those committees. And there's a difference also, let me say, there's a difference with members of the National Assembly. We just heard the Minister of Health saying, the purpose of the confinement is to try to limit movement of people generally as far as possible. There is, for the protection of members of the National Assembly, in fact, every reason why they should not be out. And if there is, of course, an urgency, like what we are doing today, I have issued an order to allow members of the National Assembly to be able to meet yesterday and for the Assembly to be able to sit for members to attend. So therefore, in very specific situation, we will obviously facilitate for members to attend to their responsibility.
Mr. Speaker, sir, actually there is another urgency. We all know that during this new confinement period, so many vulnerable people throughout the country are struggling to feed their families despite the operation of supermarkets and shops. And we all know as well that many NGOs are prepared and willing to help this hardship situation. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether consideration would be given to add these NGOs on the list of essential services organizations so that they would not need to wait endlessly for work access permits before going out and helping the people of Mauritius?
Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, again, let me say that what we want is, we don't want to have a situation where there are so many people going around. I do understand that, of course, the work that NGOs do, especially with regard to helping the poor and the vulnerable. So there is a request for those NGOs who are registered with NCIF to be probably considered if there is a real justification to give them a WAP so that they can attend to the poor, to the vulnerable. This is being looked into, I know, but I don't have the details.
Honourable Dano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House if WAP is being provided to farmers and planters and their supporting staff, as many do not have a business registration card, but possesses their farmers' card from Small Farmers Welfare Fund?
Well, I know that the breeders, planters and fishermen, they are allowed to travel from their place of residence to the base of operation or where the plantation is ongoing or their breeding site by using their registration card. So they don't need to apply for a WAP.
Mr. Speaker, I've listened to the reply of the Prime Minister concerning MPs. Is the Prime Minister aware that there is one member of his party which has recently joined the MSM and which is on the social media, which is roaming around in Albion, very close to Canot, which is a red zone. And even Canot he went. And he was in yesterday in Petite Rivière. You can go and see on the west where the president of the village council of Petite Rivière a dénoncé. And the case has been reported to the police by me and my colleague, Honourable Kiran. Can the Prime Minister at least see to it that it's not a politic of deux poids, deux mesures, but in cases where there's a red zone, people go there and to do active politics au vu aussi du ministère de la Santé.
Well,
and I reported to the Minister's presentation.
You made your point already.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
You're giving the answer? So there's no need, Prime Minister, to answer this question.
No, but let me...
Unless you want to answer.
Are
you continuing? Are you continuing your question? Show respect to the chair. Show respect.
No, let me answer, Mr. Speaker, sir. I can assure the honourable member that there is and there will be no deux poids, deux mesures. Of course, if there is the honourable member said he has made a declaration to the police will inquire. And in the meantime, if I can have the details with regard to that person, of course I will request the police to see to it that he cannot roam around unless he has a WAP, unless he's authorized. I don't know. So I cannot pronounce myself on a case for which I don't have the details about that person who is supposed to be roaming around.
Honorable Lamance.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the Prime Minister will table the list of applications and handle to the Chamber. I would like him to find out about one particular company named Votre Potager, owned by Mr. Chinatombi, whether this company obtained his WAP on the same day the application was released, and whether he has been favored because he's well connected to government.
Well, I don't know. There are so many people who seem to be well connected with government. So I'm happy that a lot of them. But I happen to know also that that shop. But that shop is categorized in the list of activities that is eligible for a WAP. They can supply. In fact, they do sell fruits and vegetables. So I don't see why others are doing supermarkets, supérette, shops, and so many of them. So why I don't see the reason why you pick on this one. I'm not here to defend this one, but this is a shop also selling fruits and vegetables.
Last supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Penal.
Reply to PQ B2 on 5th of May 2020 about WAPs. The Honourable Prime Minister mentioned, I quote, "There is a committee that scrutinizes all these applications," end of quote. Can the Honourable Prime Minister state the composition of this committee and the approximate average time taken by this committee to process one application? I'm sure the Prime Minister must have access to such statistics.
Yeah, their committee, it's chaired by the Commissioner of Police, and there's the Secretary for Home Affairs, who is also part of that committee. Now, how long does it take to process an application? I have to find out, because I don't process the application. I will ask for the relevant information.
Next question, Honorable Juman.
B4.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Director of Civil Aviation that there has been no private flight with incoming passengers since 1st of February 2021 to date. Therefore, the second part of the question does not arise.
Next question, Honorable Longchill.
B5, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I shall reply to parliamentary questions B5 and B14 together, as part B of question B5 and B14 relate to the same subject matter. I wish to inform the House that since the detection of a new local case of COVID-19 in the island of Mauritius on 5th of March 2021, the High-Level Committee on COVID-19 has been meeting on a daily basis to monitor the situation and coordinate measures to contain the spread of the virus. At its meeting on 9th of March 2021, held at 5 p.m., the committee, after taking note of the increasing number of local cases of COVID-19, decided that a national confinement be imposed on the island of Mauritius, excluding Rodrigues, Agalega, Saint-Brandon, and the Chagos Archipelago, from 10th of March 2021 at 6 a.m. until 25th of March 2021 at 8 p.m. In this connection, a temporary restrictions of movement order was issued on 9th of March 2021, and a closing down order was issued on the 10th of March 2021 under the Quarantine Act of 2020 to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus by limiting to the maximum extent practicable outdoor activities by members of the public. Subsequently, On 11th of March 2021, the High-Level Committee on COVID-19, after taking into account that the number of cases was concentrated in the constituencies of Lacavéan and Phoenix, Vaqua and Floréal, and Cupip and Midlands, decided to impose additional strict measures to prevent movement of persons in order to halt the proliferation of the virus in those regions. Accordingly, it was decided that movement of persons in those regions would be restricted to the strict minimum, save in exceptional circumstances. A new closing down order under Section 3(1)(c) of the Quarantine Act 2020 was issued on the same day. The order would remain effective until 25th March 2021 at 8 p.m. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part A of question B5 on whether the current confinement in constituencies 15, 16 and 17 will be extended, obviously it will depend on the evolution of the situation of COVID-19 in those regions, and a decision will be taken in the light thereof by the High-Level Committee on COVID-19 based on the recommendation of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of question B5 and question B14, the main function of any COVID-19 alert system is to inform the public in a timely manner of the evolution of the COVID-19 NBC TV and radio channels, private radio channels, and the Government Information Service website. I wish to inform the House that regular updates on. Furthermore, information is also broadcast on NBC TV and radio channels, private radio channels, and the Government Information Service website. I wish to inform the House that regular updates on all matters relating to COVID-19 are being provided on a daily basis on the mobile application Be Safe Maurice. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also wish to inform the House that currently government is in the process of implementing a national multi-hazard emergency alert system to be managed by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Center. The first phase of the project will allow for the implementation of a common alert protocol aggregator for the dissemination of warnings and alerts, mainly during natural disasters and emergency situations, through a number of communication channels such as TV, radio channels, the internet, social media platforms, mobile apps, SMS, and fixed line phone. Consideration is also being given to the National Multi-Hazard Emergency Alert System, providing alerts on COVID-19 or any other emergency situations to the public. The system has, in principle, the possibility of disseminating timely messages when this will be able to be operational. I was given going on well.
A massive vaccination in the red zone constituencies in view of the acute contamination.
Well, my colleague, the Minister of Health, has replied earlier about the priority cases that we are attending to in terms of vaccination. And those priority cases also include people who are not only outside the red zone, but in the red zone also. But one thing I am told that we have to be careful. People who are already infected should not be vaccinated. They should be vaccinated at a much later stage. So we have to be careful also on this. We cannot now disrupt the vaccination campaign and say, let us concentrate only on people who are in the red zone. So we will be going according to the strategy and the plan that has been laid down by government, in fact. It is not only by Ministry of Health, by government.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, the current 2 weeks lockdown, which was imposed, is due to expire in 2 days' time, that is on Thursday. Can I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether, if he can give an indication to the House and the nation, whether the current lockdown, 2 weeks lockdown, will be lifted on this Thursday or will it be extended?
Well, as I said, it will depend on the evolution of the situation. But I can tell the House that we are meeting every day, of course taking stock and assessing the situation. And every day, well, decisions are taken. So obviously, when a decision will be taken either to extend or not, or do something else, rest assured that we will communicate to the people.
Time over by 5 minutes. I suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.